been here. Yeah.
Gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for any questions he cares to ask.
Chairman, Congresswoman Brooks has got another meeting she needs to get to. I'd like to pass.
That'd be fine. Well, gentlelady from Indiana is recognized for her questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Norman. Thank you for coming here to testify today. I appreciate your time. The Biden border crisis has made every state a border state, including the state of Indiana, where I'm from. I visited the border earlier this year. I went to Eagle Pass, Texas, and Uvalde. I visited the unaccompanied minors processing center, where I encountered 10 unaccompanied teenagers between the ages of 14 and 17, and one 5-year-old girl. There was a 16-year-old female holding on to this 5-year-old girl, cradling her in her arms. And we spoke to these children and asked, "Is this your sister?" She said, "No." They handed her to me as I crossed the border. She has no family. Border Patrol agents let us know that after the new policies under this administration, these kids are really just handed a piece of paper where they're supposed to be taken once they get here. I worked in child services for about the first few years of my career. We couldn't send foster children across state lines without a significant, elaborate process to verify when they get there they're going to be safe. So I don't know if the number is 85,000 kids. Dr. Burgess, I imagine it's probably higher than that, of kids that we don't know what happened to them. But what I know is that we're not DNA testing. Maybe we're calling them, but is that calling the human trafficking home to say, did so-and-so show up? That's not ensuring the safety of these kids. And we've heard about families that want to send young children over here because they're unsafe at home. But Border Patrol agents found an infant in a field alone, covered in fire ants, nearly dead. And they were able to save that young baby boy's life. Many do not make it across the border, adults and children. When I visited Uvalde, I heard of high-speed chases that occur 3 and 4 times a week, shutting down the schools. I've heard that the ER is full of women. The OB units are full of women having babies, and Border Patrol agents must stay there while those women are in labor. What Border Patrol agents have described to me is like a war zone, and that's certainly not far from what I witnessed. In Eagle Pass, Texas, we visited a homeowner where he sees 500 to 1,000 crossings across the river every day. His property, 4 acres of his property, looked like a landfill. He and others expressed to me that when Title 42 expires, they expect a 4-fold increase in border crossings every day. It is a humanitarian crisis. Now, we've heard from our friends across the aisle that this has no chance of being enacted into law. I think there's a chance of it being enacted into law. The Democrats just have to vote for this bill, and they need to join us. There can't be a head-in-the-sand approach on the border. Securing the border is the first step in comprehensive immigration reform. Now, I also heard some comments about show me a 30-foot wall, I will show you a 35-foot ladder. But I can tell you it's faster to cross an unimpeded border than it is to climb a 30-foot fence. Border Patrol agents would tell you that this is not just build a wall. The wall is a deterrent. It can slow them down. They also need technology. They also need personnel. They told me, as part of the Trump administration, that all of that was planned. Wall, technology, personnel. And that once the administration took over, the Biden administration took over, all of that was out the window. And we are in a crisis. So I'm encouraging, I think that if anyone saw what I saw at the border, they would say, this can't continue. We must secure the border. And we must join together to do that. So I would encourage our friends across the aisle to come together and join us in securing the border. Indiana has a tracker for opioid and fentanyl-related overdose deaths in our state. 220 of my constituents in the 9th District have died from drug-related overdose deaths in the last year alone. That's 220 sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, family members. Even one is too many. And many of those deaths are a direct result of the influx of drugs like fentanyl from across our unchecked southern border. Chairman Green, I appreciate your comments about how we don't know how much fentanyl is crossing the border illicitly. I can tell you that Border Patrol agents told me when I visited Uvalde that there as many as 85 children are being held at one point in Mexico for one day to push them all across at once as a distraction for Border Patrol agents so they can, the cartels can get all the other illicit activity through unimpeded. We've all heard stories, but seeing it in person, it's caused needless pain and suffering for Americans. It's certainly caused needless pain and suffering for those in South Texas. I wonder, why did it take our president so long to visit? Better yet, why hasn't anything been done to secure the border just a few feet from where I was standing in Eagle Pass, Texas in March? And why are the Democrats silent as we approach the end of Title 42 on Thursday? The Department of Homeland Security has even predicted we could see upwards of 10,000 border crossings a day. That's 10,000 more to add to the numbers, the staggering numbers that we've already seen. It's a national security issue. The president and his administration have failed. They must act to resolve it. On the contrary, Republicans are leading the effort, and this is evidence of that, this bill. So I have a few questions. First, for Chairman Green. Why is it so important? Why was it so important for the committee to include reconstruction of the border wall in the bill? And what benefit does that give to our national security?
So the issue of the border wall, and thanks for the question, it's pretty simple. Walls work. They do work. CBP actually itself published an article on it. When the wall was built in Yuma, there was an 87% decrease in illegal crossings from FY19 to FY20. There is others, October 2020 CBP press release, and I quote, "The results speak for themselves. Illegal drug, border crossings, and human smuggling activities have decreased in areas where barriers are deployed. The border wall is forcing drug smugglers to where we are best prepared to catch them, our ports of entry." The walls do work, despite arguments made to the contrary. And there was a study done on the San Diego wall when it was implemented that showed a 98% decrease in illegal border crossing. So substantially, and I'll just speak as a military guy who used to, I mean, we use walls to canalize people, which means to make them all move to a certain area where you can better control them, you can better assist them. They work. And they're, clearly, I agree with Chief Ortiz when he said that we're not going to build a wall from sea to shining sea. It's not necessary, but there are areas where it would be beneficial. When asked under oath in front of our committee just recently, the chief of the Border Patrol, currently working for the Secretary of, Secretary Mayorkas, said that he disagreed with President Biden's immediate stop of border wall construction. I think that says it all.
Thank you. One of the things that I heard when I was in Uvalde is that the illicit activity is totaling $3.5 million a week in drug trafficking, human trafficking, organ trafficking, and other things. Can you elaborate on the improvements of the technology that are included in this bill and how that assists DHS in apprehending human and drug traffickers and smugglers?
So in this bill, we have a technology plan that we're asking for from the department where they will go and build out basically their technology requests. And it also requires that they create a plan that extends beyond the current needs so that they're forecasting how they'll do acquisitions, et cetera, for any new technology that's developed or implemented or evolves over the next several years. So the bill specifically says that they have to create a plan, come back to us with that plan, and then we'll execute appropriations, et cetera, to get that done.
Thank you. Mr. McClintock, regarding the crisis of the unaccompanied children at our southwest border, we've heard some of this from Dr. Burgess, but isn't it true that the Obama-Biden administration sought to have the authority to quickly screen and return children back home?
Yes, they did. And by the way, we do that. Any child that comes to us through Canada or Mexico, there's a resident of those countries, we get them safely home. That's what you do. If a little wave showed up on your doorstep, you wouldn't take them 10 doors down to the sweatshop or worse. You'd get them safely home. And this bill simply says that we're going to try to get every child safely home. Because again, you want to stop this. This is trafficking. The cartels are doing the trafficking. They are making thousands and thousands of dollars on every child they bring into this country through this horrific and dangerous process. I've asked the Border Patrol, how do we stop this? Send them home. The cartels don't give refunds. The moment one of these children is returned to their home, the trafficking stops because their business will dry up. And for some reason, we can't get our colleagues to understand this fundamental point.
And isn't that the same authority that we're providing in H.R. 2?
Yes.
Yes. Regarding the changes to asylum law, isn't it true that those with legitimate asylum claims can have their cases heard faster, years faster than they would under the current
Well, of course, the
asylum
courts
backlog?
are completely glutted now with phony asylum claims. Why are they making the phony asylum claims? Because they work. You make a phony asylum claim, it's very simple. You get instant admission to the United States. You get a free ticket anywhere you want to go. You get lots of free stuff, including cash. You get indefinite residency permission. You get indefinitely work authorization. And years from now, when they finally get around to your case and you're ordered deported, you can be very confident you're not going to be deported. Under this administration, we've got 1.2 million deportation orders that are simply going unenforced. They've been through the process, they've been ordered deported, and the administration simply refuses to enforce those deportations. That's why they're coming. Now, this bill says, by the way, this bill says, if you want to make an asylum claim, you may. And it will be processed. But we're going to enforce the existing law. This is not a new law. The existing law that says that during the pendency of your claim, you must be detained. As Justice Alito said, shall be detained means shall be detained. The problem is this administration refuses to do so. So what we're saying is if you're not going to be detained here in the United States, you're free to return to Mexico. You're free to seek a residency in any safe third country that we have an agreement with, but you're not going to be admitted into the country. Suddenly, all of the incentives to make phony claims disappear, and now you've got room for the legitimate claims to be heard in a timely manner.
Thank you. Yes, just for a minute.
I mean, it's just not true that the administration is not deporting people. We just were dealing with the deportation of a gentleman in my district.
There are 1.2, Ms. Scanlon, there are 1.2 million deportation orders that this administration is not enforcing. Well, this administration, this president, on his first day in office, ordered ICE not to enforce deportations. You can't get any more brazen than that.
I will also just add that, my husband has been a prosecutor for 16 years. He's now a judge. And during the Obama administration could not get people that committed violent crimes and sex crimes deported. They are in U.S. prisons. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Republicans, once again, are leading with the strongest border security bill that we've seen in years. I hope that our Democrat colleagues will finally join us in securing the border. As I said, this is the first step in comprehensive immigration reform. We must secure the border for all the reasons that we've discussed today, and I'm proud to support this bill. With that, I yield back to Mr. Norman. Thank you.
Chair, thanks, gentlelady.